Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Our viewers, I suppose it's a good evening. My name is Nrm-Cec, sitting in here at 7 p.m., of course, to take you through our show, the hotline, which is streaming live on our social media handles. That's the Alternative Uganda Facebook page, Digitalk TV Facebook page, then YouTube channel, the Alternative Uganda. It is the first day of September. This day comes with a lot of energies for purposes of ensuring that this country moves forward. We are grateful that we are with Honorable Awich Pola, Director, External Affairs in NRM, and also Mr. Joseph Ochino. He's making a lot of history because, as far as we know, he also picked forms expressing interest to be the UPC flag bearer. The irony here is another group also of people claiming as well that they also belong to UPC picked the same forms to express their interest as the UPC flag bearer. And of course, we saw one of them also being at Kololo during the NRM Delegates Conference. Perhaps Honorable Awich Pola will also tell us on how they convinced him to come along. And we also saw the DP Secretary General, Honorable Gerard Siranda. It's been a very busy, I wouldn't want to say week, it's been a very busy month of August, very, very, very busy. In particular to the NRM colleagues, I want to believe that Honorable Awich is still fatigued, but of course, despite the fatigue, he made it here. We must apologize for having gone off temporarily for 3 or so shows. We had things that were beyond our control. Gladly, we are back to speak more English. When I am amidst the Nagongera and Ntare OB, I also fit in as an OB of Bombo Army. So, Honorable, I wish say hello to our viewers. I should, so that I can tap into the wisdom of Mwiri and the entire school. Nonetheless, I am amidst these giants. Honorable, we say hello to our viewers today.
Hello, viewers. Good evening, and I've already greeted my colleague. Good evening, sir. Excellent. It is nice to be here. It has been a while.
Yeah, sure.
And we are glad to be back.
Thank you. Mr. Ochino, say hello to our viewers.
I was, as I say hello to the viewers, when you say he also picked nomination forms.
Yeah, because
in English,
adding
say,
also.
No. In English, you say he picked nomination forms.
The other ones also.
But some other people, amazingly, too did. And you're here, flanked by Intari and Mwiri. I must say that last week, Thursday, we buried the oldest Mwirian, which, how old is the oldest in Antare Obi at the moment? Do you know? You may not know, yeah.
The age, but I know the pioneer. And you can look at them and guess their ages. One is Rukikaire.
Yeah, sure.
2 is Professor Tumwine, is a professor of medicine. 3 is Bemgisha, he lives in Kiambogo. 4 is Ambassador Swahib Musoke. Ambassador Swahib Musoke is actually believed to be the first graduate of Ontare.
Sure.
Not that he was alone in the class, but when the Professor Tumine,
the notables,
the Professor Tumine and Rukikaire went to Makere, for him he went to America. And the America semester system was shorter than Makere. So he finished his course before and came back and walked inside Makere and said, hey guys, what are you still doing? Me, I have a degree. So we give him the honors, the first degree. So you can see from that, but Ambassador Swahib Musoke is a short man, so he looks younger than his age. Tumwine is there. I talked to him a week ago. He was
and
not
the
feeling
president
well.
himself, isn't he 80?
No. The president far behind. I'm talking of the lot of 1956. Museveni went there in 1961.
Okay.
The pioneer lot started in 1956 and Museveni went in 61. How many years are those?
Over 6
5 years or 6 years. But the pioneer, the ones I'm telling you, including the late Professor Mujajo. So Professor Mujajo, Professor Tumine, Kikere, Swahib Musoke, and those.
You were saying you lost the...
Mujaja Kiki, fantastic set of knowledge. The only little bit I can give to Ntare, because he was thoroughly Makerer's top African brain. But look, the one who retired from Miri was 105, born in 1920.
Was he among the pioneers?
No, apparently, of course, Miri 1922. So for him, he went in 1935. And so Mzee William Cheamwa, we settled him in Luka. He dedicated his first school badge, back to the school of 90. I was privileged to be there with him. But most importantly, his son, Dr. Cheamwa, Harvard, fantastic guy, happens to have been also my OB. So looking back to the school, I just thought these are the credits we should give. And if you look through the eulogies and what some of these guys did, both in these schools and also post-school and post-realization, where we are at the moment, I get concerned by how little I am able to do in relative to those people. I will get more concerned by those who are much younger than us, who did not even have the privilege that we did, going through our own current schools, let alone others, what might happen. But anyway, may we live in hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our viewers, the extreme chair, at the extreme end, my left, is of Professor Rogers Barugayomwe, who is on his way, and we want to believe that he will make it here. And of course, then we can have our debate moving forward. Precisely, Honorable Awich Pola, first of all, it's congratulations upon, should we call it a successful election? Because I know he has a different answer.
Do you want to congratulate Comrade Awich?
Oh, because they have a new name, rather Cec. And for lack of another word, people would now say they are in things now. New blood, new what?
Yeah.
Congratulations, first of all. Take precisely, would you consider it a success?
Well, thank you so much. Indeed, congratulations. You are right to do that. You're congratulating me for having exercised our internal election, our internal democracy. All the way from the grassroots to the top. So we have a new set of structures. That is NRM chairman and committees from branch level, that is a village to the top. We also have alongside NRM flag bearers from the grassroots to the top. Meaning that if Biabokama calls an election now,
you are ready.
we have a candidate to endorse and said that is the one carrying our flag. Also, the topmost structure that is the most heard about, that is the SEC, the NEC, and the National Conference is also in place. Therefore, exercising that election is not easy. It is big in size. For example, our structure will conduct a big election than Biabakama, in a way that Biabakama's polling centers are at parish level. Some villages are grouped together. But for us, election is in each and every village. And you can see how massive it is. So, it doesn't go without challenge. Logistical challenge. We have had issues of bribery. We have had issues of fighting. Some deaths have occurred, including challenges even when we're in Kololo. In Kololo, by the way, I had a fully fledged hospital, and 4 babies were born in Kololo. So our delegates who came
Added more delegates, future
they
delegates.
added more future delegates. We had 4 bus.
Those are future
Yeah.
UPCs.
Find Nrm.
So you are right to congratulate us, because it's not easy to go through that huge election with the challenges there. You have to verify academic papers, you have to do that, you have, it is big in number, all that. It's not easy. So we are happy we have gone through it, and we do hope that we have learned so much from it that in future we'll do it better.
If I may ask, I wouldn't want this to sound like a personal question, but of course, given the office that you hold, are you happy with the results national-wide, or you think something literally missed? Because it's also possible to have a personal opinion and say, yeah, perhaps I would be appreciative of the results, but maybe this
Which
lacked.
results?
Generally, like if you were to give yourselves marks, for instance, out of, should we use 10 as a yardstick?
Yeah, we can use any.
Yeah, so out of 10, how many would you give yourselves as NRM?
9.5.
9.5.
Mm.
Okay. But then, I don't want to run to Mr. Ochieno, because I have seen one of the topmost leaders, and this is the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, vividly unhappy with the monetization of politics. In fact, he highlighted, why would one spend over 5 billion, as in 5 billion Uganda shillings, to, first of all, to be able to become a SEC member. Yeah. So if I may ask, how special is SEC that someone considers doing their best, spend to a tune of 5 billion to become a SEC member? How special is that SEC position? It carries magic. What is there?
It's not any special, but I don't know whether the question means the same as is what is SEC.
Yeah, sure.
Because if you're saying how special, it would means there may be a list of 1, 2, 3 things, and you're asking from these 3, how special is this one? But we're asking about SEC.
Yes.
So maybe what does SEC do? SEC, first of all, is the highest political organ of NRM. The members of SEC make policies and possibly supervise policies, but they make policies. It's like a board of URA, which comes and makes policies of URA, and then URA does the collection of the taxes. So it is a policy-making body, it is an organ, but it also dictates the trend of political affairs in the country, especially when NRM wins an election, because it can make political decisions that it can make government implement. Because a government in power is a government that implements a manifesto of the ruling party. So that is what SEC is. So the importance is that it shapes and decides political matters of the country. More so after you have won, when you are a ruling party. If you're a ruling party, you consider the political hierarchy is like, that is the political high command of the country. So everybody would fight to be in that
Maybe,
high
Honorable
command.
Witch, if you could paint a picture to the viewers who may not be well informed about the hierarchy, apparently, okay, the official hierarchy of NRM. So you saying SEC is the topmost. So in hierarchy, what comes second and third? To our viewers at least.
To me, what comes first, or the one with the biggest, the strongest power, is actually the National Conference. That is the one which sat in Kololo. Because the National Conference is the one who decides who is
goes
a flag
to
bearer. The National Conference is the one with the power to amend the Constitution. The SEC cannot amend Constitution. NEC cannot amend constitution. Constitution can only be tabled in a national conference and agreed to be amended or not.
That appears that convenes every after 5 or so years?
Ideally could be, yeah, it can be called any time, but ideally must happen once in 5 years, but can be called any time. But normally it is supposed to be twice a term. So it is done. But the normal understanding is that you have the Central Executive Committee, you have the NEC, you have the National Conference. But it should be the National Conference, the SEC, and the NEC. That is how it works. So the hierarchy is that for policy formulation, it is the SEC which does it. So you have now...
Pushes it to NEC?
No, when SEC makes a policy, it becomes binding. For example...
Oh, does it require any approval?
No, for example, if you wanted to make policies about, say, voting procedures, not the one prescribed in the Constitution.
Internal...
Yes, it is SEC which makes that guideline, and okay, we draft it as Secretariat, then we take it to SEC for approval, and that is how it will be done. So, that is how strong or important the SEC is. But let me say that SEC is not a full-time job, and they are not paid salary.
A reason for which everyone is wondering, why someone fight to ensure that they are there?
So, I have been asked such questions. The only logical thing I can conclude is that because of the love of the party, people love the party and they want to participate at the highest level. Otherwise, without pecuniary interest, without fiduciary interest.
Is that honest? Is that an honest answer, Honorable Awich?
Why would I be dishonest?
No, just
wondering. Maybe you can only doubt whether I'm correct or I'm wrong. But about honesty,
so that do or die thing, it's the patriotism,
yes,
the love for NRM,
love for the party.
That I should.
Otherwise, yes. Otherwise, I've not yet known cases where SEC members have used that status of SEC. For example, maybe somebody can do to take advantage of it. That's something that would amount to an abuse of office. For example, in the business areas or what and all this, or interference with the law. Well, I've not seen it. So if those who think they are coming there to do that, then they may not enjoy it. I'm told some people think it is promiscuity, the closeness to the president.
To the power center.
But I have been I attend SEC, but we sit, the president even comes when we are seated, the president talks, and he takes his way. And we also take our
Maybe one can run after him and whisper to him, like, excuse me, Mr. President.
No, with the fountain of honor, it's difficult to run after. The security won't even allow you. The security won't allow you. So even if you, for example, even if the brother of Museveni
has to go through the protocol.
Nzire, assuming Nzire was elected instead of doctor.
Yeah.
Now he's sitting in the SEC. Do you think after the SEC he would just walk over to the president and meet?
Who knows?
No. For him, he can go anytime.
Yeah, even home.
No, I'm giving the example that we are in the SEC. Okay, let's take Mike Mukula. Mike Mukula, who has been in SEC. Are you saying that after a SEC meeting, Mike Mukula just walks there?
Who knows what happens in the corridors of
power?
I've
been there. I know, I've been there.
Anyways, Honorable, thank you for giving us an insight, because for some reason, we need also our citizens to be informed of how these institutions work. So you know, if you are, okay, some people call themselves power brokers. So if you're a power broker and you're looking for anything, so you know where to run. Mr. Ocheno, you seem to have a very different picture. How did you find the NRM Delegates Conference entirely? How did you find it?
It was shambles.
When we live, appreciate even when they do something right.
It was shambles. And by the way, particularly this round of NRA elections just concluded, it has actually presented the worst manifestation of NRA since they went to the bush, politically.
You have justification for that?
To the extent that you call it elections, and at every stage, nearly, it's football hooliganism of the extreme nature, is extraordinary. The fact that NRA held this country almost hostage for more than a month of a process then that culminates in a shambolic elections of the higher organ, meaning Nrm-Cec, tells you how much citizens are on their own, how dubious the entire process is, and how shocking it is, just as Comrade Awich says, that if this is the highest policy-making organ of NRA, and if this is the organ that citizens of this country are to depend on policies and programs to fight corruption, to fight trafficking of human and money and drugs, and to think integrity, and to think nationhood, and to think depth in terms of national programs that take this country to the future. Just look at the composition of the men and women in that Nrm-Cec.
What's wrong with them?
How many of them do average of your viewers know personally, beyond the obvious permanent ones like Museveni and Chigongo, who are unmovable, and Anita with all the flowery coverage she's got in the last few years, and then the rest who? And if Comrade Awich, as he says quite rightly, that this is the highest policy organ, how could it be that to get into that body, I genuinely don't know, and I'm a follower of these things, what policy differences Mukula, for example, and the Chodu had as a matter of debate. That strategically, if elected into this body, I will push for the regeneration of Eastern Uganda. I'll push for the reconciliation of Eastern Uganda, including Teso, Eastern Uganda, including Teso being deliberate, with the NRA that broke them. I will include, say, a policy of post-conflict reconstruction, say, of Eastern Uganda. Or perhaps the restocking of cattle stolen by NRA and others from Eastern Uganda. And that when Ucheno was about to start primary school, Eastern Uganda posted the best grades for O-level, for primary school, on record. And now we host the poorest sub-regions in the country, meaning no policy debate. Now, this is the topmost policy organ of NRA. So as you rightly say, what are they for? It is basically proximity to Museveni, and it's basically something else that maybe even Comrade Awich doesn't know. In the sense that I'm sure even Comrade Awich would not possibly understand why. That's why somebody as important as my good brother Thomas Taiwo wonders that what is it that you have to spend 5 billion Uganda shillings. And now, I think if it was a UPC administration, would set in train police special branch, because I think the police needs to be revamped also, police investigation unit, to establish if there's no money laundering, where this 5 billion Uganda shillings coming from and why. So not only has the concluding element of the process being normally, ideally, very damaging to NRA, but they're lucky that the nature of our politics at the moment is that whatever happens People laugh about it, and you guys in the media give it headlines, and business as usual. Why? Because the population have now not been able to, have now gotten used to not critiquing the details, some of the conversation that we're having. Because that ideally was what should have been happening. Now, when you go down lower, then you see the policy of lining up with or without the credits that it would give. But you actually see children being lined up. Just look at that mockery. Children being lined up. But actually, those are Ugandan children being abused. Because that's a very historical record, unfortunately, for today's contemporary television and camera. And then you go into how you see people giving money. Again, on the record. And then finally, you go and then you find the mathematics of my brother Tango. That's yet to be explained.
I wanted to ask,
you know?
And
I'm saying, what exactly are we doing as a country? One political organization. So it's been very, very sad. But these guys have thus far, I'm giving an objective assessment, have thus far gotten away with it, in part because of the mess we have in the democratic opposition. In part because you guys in the Fourth Estate, although you're bringing us here, I'm not sure you're asking the right questions or enough rigorous right questions, or really, really you guys as a Fourth Estate, you're holding NRA to account on these things.
What about I ask you this before I put the same question to Honorable Awich, that at least for purposes of transparency, you appreciate them for head counting. You know, queuing, for some reason, people, okay, Honorable Awich here some time ago was too much of a pro. People should queue up for transparency purposes and therefore, so let's tell us, what do you interpret of their strategy? Like especially Kololo itself. Kololo,
this head counting?
Yeah, sure, head counting. Queue up and we know who do you support, like that. Do you think
that's a cake. That's a cake, that's primitive, that is intimidatory. That is an indictment on the culture of the country. And I've talked about it in a different way. And Comrade Rich's argument for is a fair argument. But really, if you go into the details of a nation state in which I have, for example, I have chaired annual general meetings for a branch party, for a constituency party, for a equivalent of a district party, and many others. And I've said, I think with Comrade Rich, I don't think it was on your program here, where we said that actually elections with the ballots, even for parliamentary candidates, you don't really need to print ballot papers. You can actually use exercise books or pieces of paper and tear. Because I've seen it happen, including in these advanced states, in advanced nations. You bring delegates, they would have done their different campaigns with the different parties, maybe different constituencies, different branches, whatever. You come to a town hall, people come, they talk, you cut off these pieces of paper and do those things, and everyone's watching. Why? There's integrity, there's order, there's respect for the systems. There also people know there is consequence. That if you do A, B, C, D, you'll be held. I don't know. I just conclude by this. I have been in a branch meeting in which we are electing, and this was actually electing equivalent of a Kampala mayor, you know, candidate for a Kampala mayor for a political party. And they bring you a list of 4 people with their CVs, and these are people we've not met. 1 or 2 people may speak on their behalf. You look at their CVs, and then you pick, and as a branch, you go ahead and vote. I ended up voting for a very important person in a very different way. This is for my memoirs. But they're fantastically interesting. Do you know why? That is where systems work. There is a respect. You can be in Otuke, you can be in Mitoma, you can be in Busesa. And you know that this thing is taking place in Busesa. Mbeja is taking charge of this whole thing. You go, members come in and participate, and the results will be out and nobody question it. That culture has been killed by NRA. So they take direct responsibility for that, to the extent that now in Uganda, there's almost nothing you can do politically for which the other side will not question. And there's almost nobody you can trust. Because right now we can't trust Museveni, because he says even his bedroom has been occupied. You can't trust his bunch of Cec guys, many of whom went there either through intimidation or bribery. Bribery, or perhaps almost apparent theft. Because some of these individuals, where they get this huge amount of monies and for what, I don't know. In any case, I'm just asking this guy should be investigated instead.
You have had Mr. Ocheno Joseph, but of course, Honorable Which, precisely, was it a blunder or it was the state-of-the-art strategy to ensure that people can queue up in Kololo in these recently concluded elections? If either of the answer that you might have, did it achieve the expectations in your view?
Well, as far as I know, lining up is an entrenched provision or practice in our electoral process, not only in Kololo, even in the villages. And we came through this in the draftsman or draftswoman, or the person who drafted the constitution, or the people who drafted the constitution, based their feelings on past experience. And this past experience was developed from the fact that it is an internal election. It is a brotherly election. It is a sisterly election. Why wouldn't we line up to be honest? So that is what we decided. Many arguments have been coming for and against. Of course, as an organization, we are alive to call for change, and we feel it. Now, if some argument came up that we have to change the voting pattern, it will be done, because we don't live in hard and frozen society. But for now, what we have seen is that it is working. NRM adheres itself to transparency. And this transparency has been exercised in all levels. So we still believe in that choice. This kind of election, delivered election, even in '86 immediately we took over power. Because remember the first election we did, I was in Entebbe, was in NRA, I was in Entebbe. We elected Dr. Matovu, who was I think head of virus research, to come to NRC. It was lining up and it was peaceful. Only that people are now adulterating it. But as I said, even internally, if internally we feel that lining up is not good, we shall change. But for now, it's a legal position which we adopted to say this is an inside-house thing. We do not see why you should not line up, because we are not whoever we are competing with is not an enemy. But I also like to talk about what the congressman said about things which really associate with electronic evidence. For example, I saw the counting that Tang Adoy is believed to have counted, where you jump figures, then you come to another figure and do that. I am not sure that is what happened. I need to talk to him, or I need to talk to those who are there, because with the current technology, you can edit and it looks like that. Because
so
even
have a
now,
feeling there's some bit of AI.
yes, even now, in the past, if you were to be brought to the scene of crime in law, in a scene of crime, a photograph putting you on the scene of crime was sufficient for a judge to admit as evidence that you were actually on the scene of crime, where somebody was killed, or where somebody was shot, or where there was stealing of maize or anything. But these days, courts are hesitant to even admit electronic evidence. You can pick Usieno and put him on the scene of crime in Kabale using electronic evidence, and you dare to it that he's the one who killed Byamugisha or Tumwewas. Even at a time when he was in this TV. Maybe the only thing that would save him was a defense of alibi. Alibi would say, but I was in
we are with him at the same time.
We were with him on TV and there was record. So we should handle some of this electronic evidence with care, because anybody can do it.
In your view, those numbers, the magical counting isn't...
I'm yet to ask whoever was there. I will ask Tanga himself. Tanga calls me uncle. Even him, he should call me uncle, because the presumption is that to go to Tororo, they migrated from the north. The migration was from Sudan.
And
The migration was from Sudan going to up to Obama's place.
So he's one of your
I'm
students.
also uncle to Obama. I'm also uncle. Maybe he can also claim he's uncle to Obama.
No, Barack is my brother. But
Yes.
this is amazing that amazing that you sought claim of
your
this,
uncle, so
this
better
parenthood.
is your lost son that you got to the Far East.
That is very impressive.
So I'm going to ask Tanga, who is my nephew, and ask him, is this true? And I always tell him, please, no, you're talking to your uncle, be honest. And he will say, uncle, it is not true, or whatever it is. But see that with a lot of electronic evidence guard.
Comrade Ramish, it's interesting on that actually, and it's not putting on the spot. Consider that you've been in the media and you do this more than almost anybody in NRA at the moment. I think you should really have checked that, because this is something which has been doing the rounds. And for me actually to raise it, consider the fact that one, Tang is a friend of mine, and two, we're families. We come from the same place. So it's not easy for me to raise these things anyhow. By the time I've raised it, it's been doing the rounds and not being pushed aside. And at my level, I'm not sure I should be able to hold back part because of that.
You need to appreciate that some people can be more of mathematicians than you are. So you accept that is. Anyways, what about which? I wanted to ask you this on behalf of our viewers. Have you had a post-election assessment or something like that as a party, of course, to perhaps avoid the mistakes that have happened now and maybe plan for the better future? Or is it
No, we have not yet. What we have had on Saturday was a get together to review about the conference, not election per se. Of course, election was there. Election was part. We saw it, and we take general comments, not specific analysis, general comments that at least we pulled it out. It is a concluded agenda item in the political map, roadmap of the country and of the party. So we haven't sat to discuss the detail, as I guess you mean. However, we have agreed earlier that there's going to be what is called a reconciliation committee. A reconciliation which includes people whom we think the public takes them as fair people. The persons of Rakana Rugunda will be leading. I know in Lango we have Obua, who is a retired headmaster of Lango College, is considered respectable, attention to detail and all that. So it is that we think we should talk to our people, especially among those who contested in various positions, for MPs, for chairman district and others, so that we tell them, look, guys, this was a brotherly thing. You are all qualified, you are brothers and sisters, but we wanted one. So this was an in-out. So please, let's now stop the competition that was, and we support the flag bearer. So to be brief to your question, as to whether or not we have sat to review the election, in my opinion, we have not.
Okay. I did not want to have you start, rather, to have you answer this question first. Maybe I should ask Mr. Ochieno Joseph. Somewhere, myself and yourself and so many others watched a very honorable lady in her speech. If I'm not mistaken, it was in Entebbe. I will highlight some of the statements. How far do you push someone? And she mentioned humiliation and the rest. And this is Right Honorable Kadaga. What did you make of her statement before SEC, rather the delegates in Entebbe?
You know, I was, I know Rebecca. I first met her one-on-one, but when we were outside the boundaries of Uganda. That's when we first met face-to-face. So we have an appreciation of one another. Of course, on being here and how with those coveted offices of theirs and the new systems under NRA, when you take those positions, you begin you get bodyguards, and then you become impossible to reach. So sometimes, particularly if you're UPC, the best thing is to let it be. But I met this lady on Saturday. We were at an event in which she was actually the keynote speaker or chief guest. I don't know which way to go, but I think let me face it head on, just like I said earlier on the Central Executive Committee thing. I have been genuinely conflicted. One, of course, this is an NRA thing. They pick whoever they pick, and people who want to stand for positions. But honestly, I wasn't just quite sure whether, if this was the Uganda People's Congress in which I was in the position of Mr. Museveni, I would have advised people like the Rebeccas to stand. You see. And number two, of course, then there is, as I said earlier, I don't know what is it in Nrm-Cec. But interestingly, and I don't know what opinion community you might have, for what the Central Executive Committee is and what it used to be of Uganda People's Congress, you actually possibly need older people, much more laxed people, and people who like retired have seen it all, advisory, with some new blood strategic thinkers to push. Rebecca's own states in terms of how she struggled with her health without prejudice, you know, I'm not quite sure whether it was not too much of a struggle for her, you know. And if I was advising, I'm not quite sure whether it was a good thing for her to subject herself to this. Forget about Anita. In any case, I'm not quite sure that Anita, I think the idea that Anita has not been there for a long time is sort of bit neither here nor there. But rather, if again you take us to what has been going on the last 3 years in the public, who are really the people you want at the top? That's why I'm telling you that this organization, as an organization, for my children and my grandchildren to respect, no, they're just lucky they're in government. Because it would not be a respectable organization after 40 years that you've got Museveni, you've got Chigongo, and then the next immediate people are those people. Now that said, I think Rebecca nearly lost it by her speech. Although everything she was saying was quite right, it was almost like mini cheek. Am I blackmailing the others?
They seem like the kicks, the last kicks of the,
yeah,
of a dying horse. That okay, what else do I do?
Yeah. So and so pull it from where it is, and you may not have seen it from that perspective. These are not conversations that should be made at that level. Somebody who should qualify to be in a future UPC Sec, and particularly governing UPC, of course, for the moment, our numbers and quality of our leadership may be neither here nor there. People of Sec grade should be people who are speaking more wisdom, more reservations, more proverbs, being able to be much more restrained. But Rebecca, of course, found herself quite humiliated and quite outed, to the extent that there's a report that Museveni was backing her opponent. And particularly to the extent that Rebecca contributed to what many people in social media say serves her right. She facilitated the process of making sure that Museveni was reimposed on us by force to serve his terms. Maybe she deserved that, basically, based on what people are saying.
Do you consider her having been humiliated? Because she mentioned it, no, without fear or any form of doubt.
She has been humiliated, she has been rejected, but yet at the same time, I think it's also unfair of her to expect anything else if it was an open democratic process. Because in any case, even Museveni has got a right to have a leaning towards somebody. Although at his level and his age, the best advice is for Museveni to watch. And worse, if it's true that Museveni actually spent money to actively back a certain side, that's quite erroneous of him. But for their NRA thing, they can do that until days come back. But finally, I can assure you, until heavens come, old Milton would not do it. He wouldn't.
On the same issue, do you consider the president being that professional, mature enough, given his speech with how he managed the situation, especially no sooner had Right Honorable Kadaga finished her speech, and then the president took the...
Was that for me?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that was extraordinary. That was extraordinary. Oh, but that was an extraordinary buff. That included even a less truth. I didn't want to call it a lie. This thing that I liberated the Basoga. I came from Basoga the other day, the Basoga took exception by the Comrade Wich.
Mind you, your uncle is here, so...
I know, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, yeah, so that I liberated the Basoga. No, he did not, actually.
Okay.
Anyway.
Thank you, Joseph. Honorable Awich Pola. If I may ask, you had your friend speak. She's your fellow, land fellow. And of course, to mention but a few, why do you humiliate your seniors? Okay, there's this word, that loyal. That lady joined NRA. The movement itself,
if you don't mind, actually, it will help his point.
Yeah.
Actually, one other thing, to be fair, yeah, I do not think that loyalty and longevity should necessarily automatically entitle people to certain positions, let alone critical positions like this. But it's a fair enough point, but I think she was trying to do it versus the other person. But anyway.
I think her concern was the ring fencing of these two gentlemen up there, and also that some sort of entitlement. Okay, if you two can, what about me?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Paula, you find her humiliated, or she deserved it? Not in bad faith, deserving of good faith.
Now, when Right Honorable Kadaga says she is humiliated, it is good for us to know at what point was this alleged humiliation? Was this humiliation in Entebbe in the meetings he was talking, or humiliation at another time?
You people did darling with the person she considered junior.
No, that is not the case.
According to her
The case that she's calling is, she said during our election
with Olanya.
Yes, she was humiliated. She's referring to our election with Olanya.
Actually, yeah.
And the president said, let's understand the context of that election. Indeed, it was Dr. Tangodoi who was called as chairman of election to remind us. And his reminder was, earlier on, there was a position taken that a deputy speaker serves 2 terms, after which a deputy speaker qualifies to a speaker. To this extent, they told Kadaga that after your 2 terms, you pushed for the implementation of that. And indeed, Kadaga stood with When she stood with Sekandi, she fought vigorously, telling Sekandi that we had agreed 2 terms here, 2 terms for you. Move forward.
Pave way.
Now, when Sekandi stood, eventually at the last moment, he pulled out when he saw because it was being seen like he was violating an agreement. So he pulled out, so Kadaga went. Kadaga served her 2. Olanya served her 2. Now, when it came to her this time,
she wants to move with the chair.
He said, no, madam, you are the one who pushed Sekandi out, basing on the 2 terms principle. Now it is 2 terms gone, and it is Olanya. Now, this is where she was saying she faced humiliation. But Museveni said, but that is the thing. And it was Tangodoi who explained, not even Museveni. Museveni just asked that, can somebody refresh our mind about this? And it
about the precedents.
Now, so that is what she called humiliation. Now, she said she was humiliated that, and now she's being followed in the position of the vice, the position they are doing. Now, remember earlier in Nrm-Cec, Museveni had offered that since he has his constitutional power to appoint 5, He asked both of them, said, please, you people, choose between two of you. One steps down, another one remains. Whoever has stepped down will still be a member of Nrm-Cec. I will appoint. They refused.
What assurance would one have that after I have stepped down, I will be, I'll be appointed?
The assurance would be that the president has made this public. If he had whispered to you in a corner, you'd say, no, I need a guarantor. Because many meetings like this or assurances, including peace talks, when you sign, there sometimes you sign with a guarantor that I am promising you this. The guarantor for what I have said is he will guarantee that I implement. So if it was spoken in witness, in whispers, in secrecy, you'd need assurance. But this was said in public, in Nrm-Cec, and he repeated it in the neck. He said, I leave you there. If you want, you go for election. But if not, he did it. So, you don't need in this time more of any guarantor than the public guarantor. That the president, the fountain of honor, has said it twice. If, for example, Museveni said that, and which he did anyway, it is not if. He said it. I don't want to be drawn into if one, if two, if three. It is, he said it.
Step down, one of you steps down.
And he did not go ahead to appoint Kadaga, for example. He would be faced with explanations to the whole country, to Basoga, to everybody.
Has it abused some promises prior and has taken it lately?
The public commitment? I'm not aware of one. You may remind me. You may remind me. Now, about maybe now I may not get another chance to talk. On the issue of the reference to Basoga, because my comrade friend from the Congress is saying he was in Busoga and Busoga took exception to this. Because the statement from Right Honorable Kadaga needed a rebuttal. If Museveni did not make that rebuttal, you all know that statements which are not rebutted are taken as admission. In law, for example, if somebody swears an affidavit and gives it to you, and you only rebut affidavit 5, 11, 15, it is taken that the ones you have not, and by the way, comrade, this was interesting. I had a talk show on Friday with the P.O. Nicholas, and the argument was that because I took it to rebut what they were saying, and there were 3 against me, 1. So when I was rebutting, he told me that, no, you don't need to disturb, debate other people's opinion. You debate yours, meaning I should leave what they are talking. I said, Mr. Opio, you are a lawyer. You know that affidavit not rebutted is an admission. 2, in this debate, you are talking of the hills that you perceive as hills. And you are even going to the extent of calling for regime change. And you are telling me that I should leave that. Did you know that Uganda Communication Commissions says when you are hosting people, call both views, because they want you, the views, to contradict each other so that the viewers can better choose. So you want me to keep quiet, even when you are talking of regime change. So for you, you want to say this, so that for me, when I come to talk, I talk about Arsenal and Man U, I talk about fish in the lake and the leopard in the national park, and I leave you to talk about regime change. Is that fair? Is that fair? No. I said, if you don't want me to talk about it, then don't talk it. Now, in the same way, yes, I reply. No, now you want to talk about regime change, that NRM is so bad, the only solution is to change the regime, and then you expect a witch to come and say, you know, Arsenal and Man U this season, and then the lions and the leopards in the park. Really?
What about which? We shall allow you to talk about keeping the regime, as we also ask him to talk about removing the regime.
I'm saying this in relation to the rebuttal that was made. So the rebuttal that Museveni made was that, look, first of all, it was made by, the first one was the two-term theory.
Yeah.
You were not humiliated, we followed it.
Which the public
You
literally
did
not-
it to second, yourself set it up, and you pushed second, only that the president was good to say, okay, if you are pushed second from speaker, I appoint him vice president.
Okay.
And it was a blessing. Actually, it was a blessing that second was pushed by Kadaga, and second ended up being number two. Now, the second one was about Busoga. He was saying that those Basoga you are saying are your people, they are also mine, or they are actually mine. So he went into the narrating which Basoga were killed by Amin, the Shaban Nkutu and all that others. And then he said, I fought in the liberation to liberate the country, which includes Busoga. So how do you say they are not my people? Two, he said, the kingdom was restored in my region. I'm the one who restored kingdom. Not only in Busoga, but everywhere. So I did it. So how are you saying those are not my people? And he mentioned, I didn't know that fact, that Nadiope was arrested. I said is the one who released it, or his actions led to a release. So that rebuttal to me was appropriate and called for. And therefore, and I'm telling my colleagues that as we keep discussing, and that is why Uganda Communication Commissions wants both views invited for a talk show like this. Now, if Uganda Communication Commission wants us to come and exchange views, and you are telling me I should not talk about it, that when you call for regime change, I go ahead and talk of tigers in the national park and Arsenal and Man U, and I leave you, no way.
Our viewers, interesting. We are breaking shortly, and of course as we come back we have to interrogate deeply, because the beauty is that we have senior citizens here and whose opinions indeed matter. We will ask from Honorable Awich Pola on whether or not the Nrm-Cec doesn't represent a transition or a succession. See you in a few seconds.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
The Ugandan National Museum, a place where unforgettable memories are created. Traditions are found and a connection to our Paul is reinforced. It is not only a testimony to the history of our nation, but also impacts knowledge of cultural and natural heritage to the present and future generations for their enjoyment. Through a variety of activities and exhibitions, we gather to discover our traditions and create new ones. The Uganda Museum is our country's cultural icon that makes it accessible for the next generations to come together as our story unfolds and represents the interplay of our country's past and present. It is in our history, but also in how it has evolved to embrace optical satisfaction and new influences. Our identity as a country is not only a moment in time, but also a journey of where we have been, where we are, and where we are going. We invite you to experience the authentic heritage, rich history of Uganda. Welcome to the Uganda National Museum.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back, our colleagues and our viewers at large. My name is Nrm-Cec, and we are still live in the Digtalk house, streaming live on our social media pages. That's the Alternative Uganda Facebook page, and also Digtalk TV Facebook page, and our YouTube channel. We still have senior citizens and opinion leaders. One of them is a very experienced diplomat, a lawyer, a veteran, NRM diehard, and a member, to mention but a few. And of course, at the end, we have Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Is looking for the flag of UPC come the 2026 elections for president. And I will perhaps, of course, give him a minute to tell us about, of course, which plans he has. But for now, as in now, before we went into a break, Honorable Awich was very, very serious with when you say something, he will have to come and speak the same, get answers and highlight every issue as he mentioned. Gladly here, he has a very big room to rebut. Mr. Joseph Ochieno. As of now, they haven't contradicted. They are moving forward. Of course, as someone who grabbed power from the other and someone who lost power to this one. Nonetheless.
No, we hold very different opinions when it comes to the shambles that has just taken place, that which calls democracy.
We went into a break. We're, of course, trying to dig deeper in regards to Right Honorable Kadaga's miserable loss, for lack of another word. But, of course, he lost. That's the fact. On whether he lost fairly or otherwise, Honorable Awich was trying to, not trying, he justified such a loss. That the Right Honorable Kadaga ought to have known that there was a two-term principle internally agreed. The same way she, in quotes, pushed away Right Honorable Edward II. Unfortunately for her, she wanted to move with a seat up to 15 or so years, and things couldn't work. We now have a new Cec, Honorable Awich. To some people, it is confusing them on whether it is indeed a transition from within or rather a preparation for a succession. To those of us out there who may want a loose difference between the two, transitioning can be within from A to B, but a succession is now purely getting a specific individual or a group, and like this group is going to succeed us. What is it that it is, Honorable Awich? Is it a transition or a succession plan? People say PLOU is, there is some bit of metamorphosis. PLOU is now seen visibly. What is it that you have or that you see?
Well, you attempted to define transition
and succession.
And I would let it be at your definition.
You could perhaps also give your seniority interpretation and definition.
What I wanted to say is that we live in a society, and I kept on saying, in a dynamic society, a society always undergoing change. Even this house we have sat in, it's undergoing change. You won't see this house here after 100 years.
Yeah, definitely.
It will grow old and it will need, it has a life expectancy. Therefore, as a political organization, it is also undergoing change. Ever since, we have in a nature what is called the law of the negation of negation, or even read together with the law of the unity of the struggle of opposites. Now, the law of negation means the new is always growing and the old is being negated. The new grows from the womb of the old. Sometimes it is not even seen, and that is why you see children growing, but you never see them growing.
Yeah, you cannot.
You're seeing them growing, but you are not seeing them
sit
growing.
there and see like you have added an inch.
You can't. Therefore, it's the same thing in the movement. It will grow automatically. Now, when it grows and changes automatically, of course, the society or the members of the party have now put in legal systems which can effect that growth or that changes. And you can see now that the people decided people to be. And again, as it grows, that negation of negation, it has a tendency of retaining the old while the new comes up. Because even when new members have come up in this sect, you still see that the chairman is the same, the vice chair, first vice chair is still the same, and we don't know yet the other 5 who will be appointed. But it is a change. And to prove that transition is permanent, if you call a meeting of former ministers since Museveni came to power, I don't know whether somebody tried to compile. Of course, others have passed on. But if you try to get all the list of ministers now, or the ministers alive, there are so many. And that in itself means that the old go and the new comes. So that is it. So about PLU, somebody was trying to analyze and found that most PLU candidates lost. Mawanda lost for SEC, and I think others even at parliamentary. But that is the democracy that we have. But for me, I see the unity and the struggle of opposite, or the negation of negation in specific terms, happening within the party. And that is a natural nature, or events in nature, and it will continue to. Only that we are lucky to capture it into the legal processes, that is through election as provided by the Constitution. But if somebody is taking it literally, that Museveni is going and another one is coming, then that literal translation of negation won't work. Because it's not just a matter of removing this and putting this. It grows as a matter of its own growth, and now that it has come. For example, if this SEC performs well to the extent that by the time we have the first chair, or the chair or the first vice chair are not available, then it will mean that the new ones who have come on board will take off. And that would mean, therefore, that would come to the contested position. That is the hierarchy. It would come. But if all the 3 are not there, we still have other 4 vice chair. From Karamoja, Dr. Luki. Dr. Luki is a nice man. I was with him in university. I was with him in Lumumba. And from Western, this young man, I've not met him though, but the fact that people believed in him, we believe democracy is at work. And the rest, and so on and so forth. Of course, people have been arguing there's miscarriage of democracy. Like sometimes we have miscarriage of justice. That one now, you say the people are wise. Part of the miscarriage of democracy, of course, we have had the use of money. But I do not see clearly, especially at the regional, I did not see clear excessive use of money. In other words, I'm not saying there's no use of money. I'm saying excessive. At regional, I think things were a little stable, maybe because the candidates were not as exposed to money, or they don't have the resources. But squarely to your question, whether this is a transition, I like to say that the party has been going through a transition ever since. And this is, it has been there because the society is not static. Even if it does appear in the eyes of a person that nothing is moving, it is moving. So transition is coming automatically, and it will be captured both by the laws of the party and the national laws. Because once we do it within the party, then we have to conform to the grand constitution of the country of Uganda, thereby offering the candidates that we shall have reached to. So transition is a constant, is not a variable. Transition is a constant. It happens automatically in nature, and it happens under the law of negation of negation.
Maybe to of course ask you to be more clearer, because some of the people out there have a feeling that it is not as you may want to sound, as in a formal transition, because that's also okay for people to transition from, you know, from within. Their biggest concern, isn't this some bit of a trap, like PLU is now having its metamorphosis from within?
Who are
you
the
in
candidates of PLU in the Nrm-Cec?
Sometimes it has nothing to
I
do.
have told you
because-
one.
Yeah,
I've told you one. I've told you Mawanda,
who lost?
who lost. So who are the PLU?
No, it may not even be PLU, rather it may not even be a SEC in particular, but the entire structure. You'll hear the likes of Honorable Kabanda, like, okay, but I'm sure you know that most of your colleagues out there in NRM now have the NRM, the bus, and the PLU logo or something on almost every poster out there. Isn't that kind of contradictory, or it's okay? PLU is another, you know, is part of the movement itself.
PLU is not a political organization.
It's literally a movement.
PLU was registered, I think, as it has a legal status under a registration bureau. Under a registration bureau, it has a legal status, but not a political organization. But even if it was a party, and they tried to ally, or they allied with NRM, if they agree to our principles, there would be nothing wrong. For example, in South Africa, you have the African National Congress. African National Congress appears strong. But do you know that the African National Congress has an inherent alliance with the Communist Party of South Africa? You are aware about that?
Of course.
It is actually the Communist Party of South Africa which makes ANC strong. But broadly, when you're looking at it outside, you look at the African National Congress, that one of Mandela. But they have, to the extent that even when they're appointing cabinet, when the election is presumably won by ANC, it is actually the Communist Party, and the Communist Party's members are appointed in the cabinet. So, it's like this. It's like all members of the Communist Party of South Africa are members of ANC. But not all ANC are members of the Communist Party. In other words, the Communist Party of South Africa is a subset of ANC. That is how they work. So, but here I can assure you, we have not had such a formal institutionalization of PLU with the NRM, for reason that PLU is not a political body. So how would you then make that arrangement of the ANC Communist Party of South Africa?
In your view, Honorable Awich, in your view, who convinced Mr. Nzeire Shadrack to step down for Mawanda?
It's not in my view. The fact is clear.
What is the fact?
The fact is that Museveni said this in SEC and said it in NEC. He said, Nzeire is like my son. He said, he's even younger than Muhoozi. Much as he's my brother, but my father had got another woman and married, so the children he was producing were young children. So Nzeire is like my son. He said, I told him that if you go for this position and Dr. Barum Murusi says you are fighting them, how will they know it is not me who sent you when you are my brother and you are my son? You are younger than Moses. He said people will not know it is your own ambition. People will think it is me who sent you. So you step down. And so you don't even need to ask whether it is my opinion. The truth is.
Would you consider that opinion seriously, waiting for a gentleman for that long from day one of when he expressed interest up to literally the last days for someone to be convinced to step down?
Well, that is their choice and their methods of work. But I want to say that it's not just my views as to who persuaded Nzeire. It is a fact because the president made it public. He said, if you go ahead and contest against these other candidates, it will be difficult for the public or for people not to believe I sent you because you are my brother. You are like my son. You are younger than Muhoozi. So you can't do that. So we pulled him out.
Okay. Take it on from there. What do you read with the new leadership now of NRM, Mr. Joseph Chen? Is it a metamorphosis? Is it business
No,
as
it's
usual?
a show. It's a show. This is a family affair. It's a show. It's interesting, actually, the argument Mr. Museveni makes about his younger brother. Because it is a fair enough decision coming from Mr. Museveni, and particularly if it had come from him much earlier. In any case, I would possibly have expected him to ideally have done it much earlier, as you asked Comrade Awich, but I think it would be a difficult one for Comrade Awich to answer, to be fair to him. That is actually done much earlier than waiting at the last minute. And yet that said, there's a contradiction that Mr. Museveni could say this of this other younger stepbrother, and I've heard these things in the political circles in town, that he holds that view about this other younger brother of his, but he does not hold a related view about his own son, who is holding a very critical position. And to the extent that I've had a view amongst the Kampala elites that is there also an element of picking and choosing in Mr. Museveni's Kaguta household, you know, one opinion coming from an average young woman, a fairly deeply intellectual, who's almost sympathizing with Mpuanziri, you know, in that sense. And one other colleague asks, is it about sympathy to him because you have a particular opinion about his opponent or not? But that, in a way, that's politics. But number two, the question of the African National Congress and its alliance is true, as Comrade Awich says. Comrade Awich, you don't know that, of course you know, that the ANC is a natural sister party to us before you guys came into being. But you and I, the one few things we share is that ANC is a sister party to both of us. Because I can't determine for them your relationship as NRA, but they're a close sister party of UPC. Sometimes as Comrade Awich talks and then you see what happens in other countries, one of the reasons why I wish we could have space for democracy in this country, because if you see that tripartite alliance of the Communist Party, the African National Congress, and COSATU, the trade union organization, and then you see the depth of what I was trying to say, in the absence of that, in the presence of that, you'd see membership, ANC struggling now. But generally in normal times, you will see arguments. What is the ideological focus, compass of the Communist Party? Where do they meet with the ANC? What does the trade union movement bring in? And in this tripartite organization, now that called the African National Congress, as they call an alliance group, and they take a particular policy position. And in there, you see it's the central executive or national executive. What do you see? You see issues, you see ideas, you see depth. That is what is lacking in this country, particularly because NRA that would provide it doesn't. UPC does have that, is limited and contained as you'd want to enjoy to say that in our own mini power struggle. I was telling a group of young people the other day who are my young, fantastic recruitees and mentees that unfortunately, Comrade Rich will be happy to hear that even while we criticize them, that you look at some of the leadership questions in the Uganda People's Congress, the issue is not about primarily what the other three alleged presidents represent ideologically and what they would do differently for the country. From Ochieno's perspective, it's very clear because I'm ideologically driven. That's why I'm saying I'm naturally that. But then come back to these guys and their sake. Transition, succession. Clearly, it couldn't be transition because from one form to another, because the constant is Mr. Museveni and Mr. Chigongo. And as I said, the NRA is ruled by another unsaid thing, the high command, in a very structured way. It's a monolithic organization. But politically, you could say neither here nor there. It wouldn't be because there's not going to be any new form, because there is an element of a constant. But it's also true that people have argued that perhaps this is an element of a purging of a generation to create, to bring in a new generation. Generation in a very political way that perhaps links it to the idea of PLU. That can be very tempting, although Commander Rich has sought to argue against, but I think it's very tempting. That is almost something along those lines. And for that reason, you would not dismiss the fact that, well, it's a preparation of a new set of guys at the leadership team who would be almost certainly subservient to a future Muhoozi, should a Muhoozi of that kind ever emerge. I still worry that in all these things happening, it is almost like a comic game in town when it's something which is involving the governing political organization for a country like Uganda. And the other day I was at a Pan-Africanist event and I look at things happening on the continent and I wonder what is going to save the children of Africa who are actually watching you. I really think that we have insufficient depth in political parties and organizations in this country. We have insufficient depth in terms of quality of debate on the African continent, considering how fast China is going, how fast India is going, how fast Russia is going, how crudely fast in another dangerous direction America is going. Even my other home for a few years, Britain, where politics now being taken up by the far right, fascists taking center stage in a country which is already very much places which are very diverse, with Africans present there. Africa must be building an alternative for themselves, let alone an alternative to challenge some of these things which are happening in the globes outside here. And Commander Rich, as a Director of External Affairs and NRA, basically gets what I'm saying when it comes to the reality of global politics today. We are doing a huge disservice to young Ugandans today.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph Ochieng. You, of course, with how you sound, you I don't want to say that you are becoming, should I say, a sadist or an alarmist. How prepared are you then? As in, first of all, as far as we know, it's like UPC does not even have, save for knowing that it is at Uganda House. It's like it has no address, for lack of any other description. How prepared?
No, we have a permanent address.
How prepared are you to confront now the political giant that has a new leadership, energetic, of course, financially stable, and you aren't? They have numbers, you don't. How prepared are you? And it's coming just a few months from now.
I don't know why you're saying we're alarmists. The observation that I made was very global and very non-partisan. As an organization to awaken up people like a witch, who is lucky enough to control an organized party headquarters with massive resources, some of which is our national resources. So I was talking global polity, and I was actually reawakening young people watching us and those young people who watch us. That's actually important. That despite the shambles in NRA, despite the challenges in UPC, young Ugandans and young Africans and young people watching us need to possibly challenge us more and get to re-liberate themselves so that as Africa we're able to have a conversation around alternatives for this continent and indeed globally. But for UPC, we have a permanent address. Uganda House is not going anywhere. 6th floor is officially our permanent address until we change. A future UPC government...
An office you do not even step in for your work.
I'll explain. Of course I don't go there, but let the viewers benefit from it. That the 6th floor is a permanent address for Uganda People's Congress. We're very privileged to have it. And Uganda House is not going anywhere. I am part of those people who, in the previous decade, had been working to see the development of the next plot. So we've got some thoughts that we can discuss outside this scheme. So who occupies it legally? That's the problem. Jimmy is not occupying it legally because I said he forced himself in there. This matter is coming for hopefully a definitive hearing next Monday, when we expect a resolution on the question of leadership and including the question of some of the previous breaches and disregard for for the law and for the judicial processes and court rulings. We expect a ruling on contempt of court. We expect a ruling on question of permanent injunction, and we expect a ruling on on a determination quite clearly on who the party leader is. So we hope this is a result over the next week. Regardless of the outcome, I, together with my colleagues, have also been trying to have a rare conversation, which has not been happening for a long time, to try and see if the various interests are able to have a common ground, so that we're able to find a way in which we're able to save the party and save it for young people of this country. That said, reorganizing Uganda People's Congress is easier than reorganizing any political party. And reorganizing Uganda People's Congress will be easier than reorganizing NRA once Mr. Museveni retires. One, because we are quite solidly ideologically coherent political party. And number two, I think as a political party, 40 years of NRA has substantially vindicated us on key index, in economics, in health, in economics, in health, in education, infrastructure, everything, including on security and actually politics, the democratic credentials. I think NRA has helped. Time has really helped to set us off there. So I think it's not a big thing going forward. But that said, the bigger element will be the fact that most of Ugandans today, including your generation, really don't know the things I'll be talking about in terms of figures, because they're not there. The good thing, though, is that the roads that we built, the schools that we built, the hospitals that we built, the banks that we founded and built, most of the key infrastructure developments in this country, the rail networks that we built and extended, are there. How are we able to recommunicate that and persuade today's generation and make them emotionally attached to those, and then link those attachments and turn it into credit for us, is a challenge. Meaning there's still a possibility we may be able to do that, and young people still say that no, they want a PLU reincarnation for the future, or maybe we were good enough but we are substantially delayed, they want something else. But as a political party going forward, my worry has never been whether or not we shall be able to reclaim this space. The worry has been how long it takes us and how purposeful we are as leaders and how honest and how genuine we are. I think a UPC leadership that emerges with integrity, with the credibility, with the track record, with the neatness, with the language to persuade not only UPC members, bring them together, but persuading other people, including a language, which this is important, a language that does not divide this country, and a language that does not send NRA to the bush or to worry them that they're going to go to Luzira, but a language that seeks to bring this country together, a language of hope. Whoever that person is will be able to save this party.
You see, Mr. Ochieno, what worries me, just like any other concerned citizen, is that the formal EC roadmap is out.
Yeah, okay. The more recent
UPC in itself, very few know what is happening or what is even likely to happen. And with a limited time that you are, in fact, that you don't even have, literally you have no time.
No, we don't, yeah.
So now one wonders, the preparedness within your leadership, formally, because by and large, legally you are the, you are the UPC leader. Which UPC, its structure, it's in space. How prepared? Or literally you have let this be, and then you plan for 2030.
No, I think you raise an important question. If it's about this election.
Yeah, local council elections, parliamentary. One wonders how soon you will even prepare your, have your primaries and have flag bearers and to be able to compete.
No, the activity is going on. The activity is going on. And some of the activities which are going on under the tutelage of people associated with Jim McKenna. And part of the conversation I've had, including this morning, is that regardless of the outcome, one of the things we're trying to work on is that we should not be able to penalize anybody who will have been in those respective positions simply because of the challenges facing us at the national leadership level. So whatever activity is being conducted by UPCs across the country at different levels, by the way, to be fair to party members, in their limited struggles, and we've really done them a disservice, those of us at the top of leadership. Whatever is happening in different spaces, whatever, and it's little, not in much, and you're right on that, should not be impacted on regardless of the outcome of the leadership question.
Yeah.
But you're right also that for this election 2026, I do not see major magic because, for example, I will not be giving you figures that we're going to get 150 parliamentary candidates, for example. So I know that's very unfortunate. But as far as the question of president is concerned, I think I'll taunt you on this. That actually in the event that I was formally confirmed as president of the party in the next 1 week, and that we were to put our houses in order, on the basis actually of the performance of NRA, I don't think there is any candidate, any other candidate of any other political organization that on terms would, from October, November, December, for 3 months, you know, across this country, sell much more persuasive message than a UPC president as myself to this country. In which case then, politics, like Blair would say, a day in politics and a week in politics is a long time. Given the spaces, as my brother has assured us with the Uganda Communications Commission, that we have free media, free space, and no clobbering and NRA boys in the barracks rather than beating up people like they did in Kawempe, and then we reach out, the majority of Ugandans. No, I think we would have a very, very, very nice attempt at that presidency.
I have two precise questions and then I cross to Honorable Awich Pola. Do you seem to suggest that in the event that courts now rule in your favor,
Yeah.
despite the numbers and the structure as, you know, as worked on by Honorable
Akena.
that you will incorporate the same leadership into your leadership?
Most of the current district leadership are not contested. They don't belong to anybody, but they have their loyalties. But many of the people who would have been elected...
So your biggest issue is up here on the top?
Yes, and many of the people who would have been elected, including today, that's my commitment. I don't know what Jimmy would do. But for me, if there is an election that has taken place in most of the spaces or taking place at the moment, I think I'm unlikely to be able to dismantle that because it would be very unfair to many of these people. And in any case, I think it's really about the bigger picture. And that's my point, and that's my commitment.
Okay. In regards to working together with him in the event that you're now on top formally, do you think, is there room or your issues are irreconcilable?
I've always committed myself to work with everybody. And in any case, before even this matter came up 5 years ago, I was engaging different people, including bishops, to try and talk to them.
Okay.
And that's one. And number two, so from a UPC perspective, that is not an issue. The question of policy and strategy, they would differ on particular individual ones. I will not go into that.
Okay.
But finally, in any case, actually, we are the party of diversity, we're the party of unity, we're the party of conversations. So under my leadership, we would have a conversation with everybody else, including people in NRA, in a formal open way, like what is the one says that what concerns all must be discussed by all. The issue is this bedroom businesses and some of these brown envelope deals. Those are the ones that will not be entertained under my leadership. Yes.
Honorable Awich Pola, I have given him some bit of time so that he could expound on what is happening in UPC. Do you consider them serious?
I'm happy you gave him time.
But you also had a lot of time, so don't present it as if I've got some special favor here. Certainly not.
Honorable Awich, the gentleman on your left asserts that he's very willing with his party to confront your mighty party, like you call it.
On issues?
On issues, yeah, of course, yeah. On issues, do you consider them serious and organized? Or they are simply because following the rest of the players, just for the sake of following?
Well, first of all, personally and as NRM, we wish them well. And that is why our well intention has been seen in IPOD. IPOD is the inter-party organization, dialogue and something. But anyway, in simple terms, it's an association of parties who have representation in Parliament. Now, because the members of these parties have seen our good intention and fairness, they have decided that NRM become chair. We had wanted a rotational system so that we keep changing, but they have said, you are good enough, you change. Now that shows that we don't wish them well, and we don't behave like witches. Now, having said that, we don't even celebrate at their weakness or at their challenge. For us, what we wanted was that our brothers and actors in other political parties get organized, present their views to the people. We present ours, and we see what would the people choose. And that is why this last conference you saw, we invited other parties.
DP.
For your information, we had several committees during this, subcommittees during this organization. I was chairman, foreign relations. I don't know whether they thought because I'm doing foreign relations, I'm there for a diplomat, I could host visitors. They put under me secretary generals, which we invited from other foreign political parties. They put under me NRM diasporans who are coming from abroad. They put under me ambassadors accredited to Uganda, and we invited them. They put under me Ugandan ambassadors abroad who were in Kampala, and good enough, they had come here for a function. I think they had a meeting in Gulu or something. And also they put under me political parties. So I'm the one who personally, I remember my PA personally served in NUP, and they were shocked when they saw NRM walking in their office with an invitation letter. I sent my PA personally. So all those were under me.
And you forgot to invite your son.
I think when we wrote UPC, whoever served.
And I'm now asking very official, Commander Wich, why didn't you invite me? Why did you invite some strangers to your thing?
I think when we left this letter for being delivered, for being served, in the person who served
their favorites.
And also, now I see where the problem is. The problem is there is an ED of iPod, and we also invited him. In fact, he came with these secretary generals. Yeah, he's called Dr. Somebody. So this guy of iPod now directed who, in his opinion, is the eligible UPC. President. Because he sits at the iPod secretariat, so he knows who he deals with as the legitimate.
But Honorable, in a second, do you think he would have come in any case had you invited him?
He would have.
Sure. Would you?
He's a very diplomatic guy. Utieno is a very diplomatic guy.
He's there.
He would have come.
No. Let him speak for himself.
But you ask me.
Why did you? Okay, let me push the question to him. Would you have attended had you received the invitation? With due honesty.
Honestly, by the way, I was asked about this thing in a media house, and I was being very generous to NRA guys. I was telling them that political parties do these things as a matter of formality, and in normal times you should really have no implications. Yeah, sure. And to the extent that actually he in Uganda is being taken that way, tells you how much political work we need to do. Yeah. It's actually really not an unusual thing. And I also told and gave credit to Comrade Wich variously that Comrade Wich's contribution to helping remodel NRA politically, including their secretariat, brings into many of these things that I think they wouldn't consider a few years ago. So it should really not have political intonations. However, very interestingly, the guys who attended, do you know what the Comrade they said? They said, why did you attend? They said, oh, it's because we went there as iPod. So I'm giving a feedback, oh, we went there as iPod. So why? Because of the dubious deal that Akena and guys in NRA have. So it makes the situation very, very difficult. No, in the event that the letter would have had come, would have looked at it on its own merit. And in any case, to be fair, to Commander Wich, we had a conversation about this before I think they even dispatched their letters, yes.
It was,
but the deal...
It was a necessary question for him. Kindly proceed, Honorable Wich.
So, your question was whether or not we take them serious. We take them serious. I mean, these are registered political parties, with some with members in parliament, and some with history, like UPC for having been in government twice, So why would we take them for a joke? For us, it is not yet over until it is over.
Do you ever...
It is not yet over until it is over. In other words, we take every opponent seriously until the votes are counted. So we take them serious and we wish them well. And at the moment, all we know is that we have the numbers, as you rightly put it. We have the numbers. We put in our register. It was such a big number in millions, and people doubted it. President Museveni went to his village in Rachtura and counted physically in his polling station. And when they pointed, he said, if we take the average, that this village of mine, of course there are other villages which are more and others which are less. He said, if we consider this as an average numbers of members of NRM, times 73,000, then you are right for the figure that you claim you have in the register. That's what he said. But also, you may see numbers in an institutional framework that at all sub-county threes, the council, we are the majority. In most district councils, except a few, we still have the majority. In parliament, we still hold the majority. So clearly, we have the numbers. And having these numbers, we don't take it for granted. We want to concretize and even win more. But as we concretize and we win more, we do that in total respect and recognition of our friends, that they're serious and we'll see them as serious. It is not over until it is over. So we can't just ignore them. We have to work hard, win our election. It is counted. That is when we know it is over.
And thank you, Honorable Wich. But I want to also bring it to your attention, just in case you didn't know, that there are some people out there who think that UPC's problem is rather NRM itself. You people, you are a creation of their problem. What's your take? Because they would say there is a ruling, everyone is looking on, like they think that you are creating this problem and you are beneficiaries of their instability.
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge, because I've hinted to Comrade Ochieno that if one has a court ruling, a decree from court, say over land like here where we are, and then he wanted to execute that court order by evicting people who are here, it is definitely the responsibility of the state, even if you get court brokers, even if you get brokers, it is the responsibility of the state
with the police to help
that
you.
person evict. So, if there are cries of failure to execute court orders, then you hold the government liable and by implication the ruling party liable. So we have to do that. But I think what is happening now, if you ask case by case, Akena will always claim what you think court should enforce. It is actually on appeal. Nearly everything on appeal. But I know the Congress may say, no, this one is a concluded matter, even at the highest appellate level.
Yeah.
Or this one is out of time for appeal, and we therefore went for the execution. Now, that to the extent you'd blame the government for its failure or refusal to give enough backing for an execution of a court order against UPC and leading to the confusion. But on the other hand, they claim, for example, that we politically initiate a conflict. I don't think. UPC sent their person to accept appointment as a minister. Because the appointment of the minister, I was privy to it. Honorable Amoy, I was privy. In the normal open thing, we are privy. Because when Amoy was appointed, it came in the backdrop where there were complaints in the NRM caucus that the NRM cadres in Lango were being sidelined. So I happened to be among the group which went to State House to meet the president over this. And Amoy was called for us to answer whether or not she would work with us. And among the questions we asked was whether she had been sent by UPC or she has come alone. She said she came with the blessing of our party. So if your party blesses you to come or to accept appointment, and that appointment appears like it's causing a rift, then it is not us to blame. It is those who send her to us.
It is him and the team, yeah?
It is those who sent her to us to blame. In any case, if she turned down, definitely there are many other Ugandans who would wish to take up that position.
Okay, I think you
So,
also use
really,
the 1 minute to also have your closing
we are
remarks,
not-
and then across to
So I make a closing remark.
in a minute. Yeah, I think in a minute, 1.5 minutes.
My closing remark is that we have had an internal election in NRM from the village to SEC. And we thank those who participated and we regret the bads that happened. Now, on the issue of transition, I'd like to assure the viewers that we are in a constant change. The old going away and the new coming from the womb of the old. And that is an order of nature. And all this has to be governed within the legal procedures when it does manifest. Therefore, give us the chance to continuously develop and evolve this internal mechanism of election. We shall reach near perfection. We may not reach perfection, but we shall reach near perfection. So we take liability for the mistakes that happen, but we shall move forward.
Thank you, Honorable Wich. Mr. Joseph Ochin, precisely, do you also believe that NRM is part of the problem within your party? That is it?
NRA is playing a very critical role in the challenges we face as a party.
We should use our 3 also minutes.
I'll reduce, I'll be very, very brief. Comrade Wich has given you nuanced suggestions, and it's up to viewers to make the conclusion. But on the specifics of Betty's appointment, of course, Comrade Wich again can't say more than what is said. It's very clearly the case that Betty seemed to have been a very familiar presence already as part of the establishment, but that may not necessarily come out apparently, but I say it with authority. Number 2, that the blessings that Betty refers, it was a blessing from Jimmy and 1 or 2 people, not the party. And in any case, even if it was Jimmy's element of the party, it was already an established illegitimate element within Uganda Post Congress that is not represented, and that's why I'm here. So quite clearly, it's a grouping of people who did that. It's one of those things that I hope is reviewed soon, so that we reach a stage in which we as a party, we are a political party that is not beholden to individuals, communities, deals, or perhaps families. That's extremely important. But that said, a sensible, a future UPC leadership will always be able to engage with all political parties and organizations, including NRA. And so I think when you engage as institutions, that is for the beauty and for the love of the country. But when you engage and you do deals, underhand deals, that means you reduce yourself to the people who are fighting for SEC positions in a manner in which you cannot explain somebody, Nrm-Cec that is, doing deals for yourselves and individuals, and not for the political organizations that you represent, and certainly not this Republic of Uganda. So we saw what happened in Nrm-Cec. It was comic. We hope that beyond that, as these guys settled to review, they realized that actually they played major damage to politics in this country, and that out of that we hope that together we can work as citizens of this country and make sure that beyond this coming elections, which concerns me very much, if you see what happened second, you see what happens in Kawempe, that Comrade Which, that whatever happens, that we do not face a violent, we don't subject this country to another violent elections come 2026. Whatever happens, this country is possible. The future is possible. Thankfully, the future is predominantly young, but these young Ugandans ought to learn, they ought to read, they ought to detox themselves, they ought to demonetize their heads, unlike the Pan-Africanist chief guest at a Pan-Africanist event the other day said that we need to liberate our minds. And when we're able to liberate our minds and we engage our bodies, and then as Africans realize that this land on which we step, this Africa, is full of our natural resources that don't belong to China, don't belong to America, don't belong to anybody, then those young Africans using their heads and brains will think critical enough to make sure that we're able to detox the politics that we're having a conversation about today. Because in any case, what is the future? The future is this country.
I want to give you 40 seconds and answer this. In the event that you are not reinstated as the UPC president, would you consider contesting as independent?
No, I cannot contest as an independent for president. And number two, I am someone who actually generally believes that this independence nonsense is a creation of absence of politics, of ideology. I'm a socialist-driven politician, convictionist-driven. I cannot say that I'm independent as Ochieno. No, I represent an idea, a party, a big idea. Okay. And I think that I hope post-2026, politics is renormalized so that the political parties and organizations that exist today are able to mainstream themselves. I will not speak for them, but politics should be about ideology. So therefore, political leaders that we have today must be people who we can see and we see what represents in them, translated into the day-to-day livelihoods of the ordinary citizens of this country, and not as individuals. And unless we do that, this country is at stake, this continent is at stake.
Okay. Our viewers, that has been our time. My name is Nrm-Cec. Continue sharing, commenting, or even asking any questions. In the event that you ask them, by God's grace, next Monday, then we shall also push the same questions into the two gentlemen and any other guests that will be with us. I sign out. A blessed.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.